The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. In the book, Why Good Things Happen to Good People, Stephen Post writes, "Giving to others has been shown to increase health benefits." And in a separate study by Michael Norton from Harvard Business School, it reveals that people are happier when they spend money on others versus themselves. These are all wonderful reasons to give, as Martin McNish stated in a Give a Damn Conversations That Matter episode, where he said, giving proves to you, yourself, that you can make a difference in the lives of others. And to not give, he says, is to give up on the belief that you can make a difference. Give a Damn is a small, crowd-funded, not-for-profit group that raises money for micro-charities that do not have the resources to fundraise. But here's the challenge, says McNish. We, too, are small and only have limited resources, all of which are dedicated to raising awareness and money for other charities. Enter Charitable Impact, a Vancouver-based foundation that was created to help donors and charities connect. John Bromley says, "I started with the goal of making it easier for people to come together to change the world." I invited John Bromley of Charitable Impact to join me for a conversation that matters about the power of giving and how you do it. John, welcome.
Thank you for having me. That's a great introduction. Loved it.
Well, there's a couple of components here. Let's start by talking about what it is that in our human nature that makes us say, yeah, I want to be able to help someone else. And it can be in so many different ways, but there is something that is inherent to being human that we want to reach out and help others.
Well, first of all, I'd agree that it's inherent. It's my view that generosity is innate, right? There's lots of different ways to come about that. One of the ways I look at it is this saying, it takes a village, right? So some of why we want to help is because we know that we need help. And so it's a two-way street. And in fact, people who receive help are often the best helpers.
Because they have helped.
Because they have helped and they've experienced knowing that they need help. And if you ever need help, then you go, oh, the theory then transfers that I might need help one day, and wouldn't I want someone to help me if I needed help? So why wouldn't I help someone else? I mean, that's not sort of dramatic science, but it's very relatable, because I think that's the way we live our lives. High net worth people, often the people called philanthropists, don't give nearly as much of their income away as lower income people do. And one of the reasons for that is because the more privileged you are, the less you experience needing help. Right? And so it's harder to relate to getting in and giving. Whereas, for example, if you're, immigrants to Canada are some of the best donors around. They're not always the wealthiest, but why is that? Well, you come to Canada, you experience, being helped, and then you want to pass that forward. So This is part of the human nature.
In the conversation that I referred to with Martin, he had this wonderful analogy. He said, if you've got a log that you put sort of like to burn for a fire, it will burn nicely. But if you put a second log next to it, you ignite that log, but then both logs burn hotter and brighter. And if you take the one that you've now ignited because it was in harmony or in conjunction with the other log, and you move it away, both are still burning. And then they can continue to share. And in many ways, that is the magic of giving, isn't it?
Yeah, it's also the magic of fun.
Yeah, right.
And we don't talk about giving being fun very often, but it is fun.
Yeah.
And why isn't giving fun? Not necessarily to take the conversation there, but I think one of the reasons is because the experience many people have with giving, not everyone, especially charitable giving, is being asked to give. And so it's this sort of extrinsic force, this outside force coming in and saying, hey, do you want to do something? As opposed to what often satiates human engagement, interest, and then it maintains engagement, sustains engagement, is sort of when it comes from within, right? So what is it you care about? And then, and if that's, you know what that is, getting you to engage with that is way easier than getting you to gauge into this over here that you might care about because it's an issue to Vancouver or to British Columbia or to Canada or to the world, but it's not necessarily your issue.
Yeah.
Right? And so the fun part of giving is really, really an important thing to explore and to help people understand that it's okay to have fun when you're doing good things.
Well, there's so many people who I think are driven by that pure motivation to help someone else and that they get enjoyment in doing it. And so thus there's far more micro-charities around than we're aware of, because these micro-charities, they have no profile. They're not out there advertising, they're not putting on big galas, they don't have a list of donors with, I guess, giving written into their will and whatnot. People don't know who they are. But here are all these small charities who are going, I want to make a difference. They enjoy themselves doing it, but they also need to be supported.
True.
And this is where they get into okay, how do I reach out to the world? But also the world could be saying, well, how do I find those people?
Well, that's true.
Enter you, right?
Well, it's sort of, but let me say one other thing there. I love what you said, and you're totally right. The micro-charities, there's a lot of that. In fact, the vast majority of charities in Canada are micro-charities, small, localized charities. But there is more than micro-charities, which is actually a type of entity, a corporate, charitable entity. People and organizations that want to do something to create change in the world.
Okay, define that.
Well, there's 35 million people in Canada.
Right.
Right. So there's, and if everyone's, generous, where we started our conversation, well, there's 35 million people that, want to do something to create change in the world. We have 3 beliefs at Charitable Impact. The first one is that everyone, you and me included, everyone listening here, has something that they want to create change for.
Right.
Okay, and the second belief is that they have something to give towards creating that change, whether it's their time or their talent, what they're good at, or their treasure, their money.
Right.
Okay, and the last belief we have is that when you give, you get something in return.
Right.
Right, and it's important to get into the reality that when, for example, we go for a run, it's not just to look good, it's for our own health too. When we give something to help someone else, there is impact there, and that's an important focus. But what's in it for us and our own, how we perceive ourselves and how we are perceived by others and how we express our own mission in life is a part that's underexplored.
I got to get you to hang on for a second while we take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. Well, it truly is. Because where do you go to discover this, to realize it? And so how did you wind up saying, oh, there's a gap here? Like what led you to this? Because, this was not what you were doing. You were leading a successful career in other ways. You said, no, I want to make this my purpose.
Well, I'm happy to talk about my story, but the first thing you said there is really, really important and cool. Like, where do you go to learn how to, express your generosity or do it more effectively, right? That, by the way, is, in my opinion, the biggest problem in the charitable sector. I mean, there's lots of problems in the charitable sector. I'm happy to talk to you about them if you're interested. Okay, but the biggest one that doesn't get a lot of focus is where do you go to learn about giving?
Right.
Right? Not where do you go to learn about generosity. That's part of you, right?
Yeah.
So let's just find an analogous situation. If you said to me, hey, where do you go to learn about sport? I'd say, oh, well, what sport? You might say, oh, well, we're talking to a friend earlier today about soccer. Right? Oh, well, you can go and sign up over here.
Yes.
And when you sign up there, you get you join a club, you get a coach, there's other players there, you go to practice, you get games. Heck, you learn a little bit about soccer, and if you like it, keep going. If you don't like it, try something else.
Right.
Where do you go to engage with giving? Where do you sign up to learn something?
Well, unless you're the super rich, and you can go to consultants that are going to walk you through that process and all the legal ramifications from it, I think the average person, you go, I look up hopefully something online, but I don't know what I'm getting.
So this is the purpose of Charitable Impact, actually. It's to help people create the change they want to see in the world.
Yes.
It's not to help people discover what they want to do to create change in the world. Why? Because they already know.
Right.
They just need a little bit of help, maybe figuring out exactly what that is. But what they actually need help with is knowing what they can do to create that change and to do it, to do it a little bit more effectively. And that's actually what Charitable Impact exists to do, and it's literally our purpose.
So what are the elements of that? Of giving in a way that you say this is going to be a reflection of the change that I want to see? Was that Gandhi or Thoreau who said that? Be the change you envision?
Yeah.
I can't remember which one.
I should know.
Yeah.
I apologize. Yeah. What are the elements to that? So there's the human nature elements that we sort of opened talking about, right? And so Charitable Impact can't control that. That's human nature. But we can nurture that.
Yeah.
Right. So the nurturing of that's really important. And let's just clarify that what we're talking about here, particularly in the context of Charitable Impact, is charitable giving. Right. Lots of forms of giving. Charitable giving is the type of giving where you get a tax credit, you get a tax receipt, and then it has to go to things that are charitable at law. We can talk more about that, but that's just the context. Okay. So what do you need? What does someone who wants to get involved in that need when they don't need to be told what they care about? My view is, first of all, they need something like a bank account so that they can centralize all their giving. And when you centralize all your giving, you can know what you did yesterday and plan for what you want to do tomorrow. Not unlike a regular bank
in essence,
account.
you're saying a bank account that's specific to just giving. It's not the rest of your money, and giving's a part of that.
That's right.
Okay.
Right. So that you can separate it, and it's important for people to plan to be able to separate their donations from their grants or the money that they send out to charities. Just like it's important to me to be able to separate the money I earn from my job, from how I'm going to spend it. Right. The bank account, we don't talk about it that much in society anymore because everyone has one, but it's actually plays a really important function.
Yes.
Right. It helps us organize and plan and invest around our lives. So the charitable bank account, or what's known in the industry as a donor-advised fund, is that. So I think everyone needs a donor-advised fund. And I don't think you have to be wealthy to have one. For instance, I've got two children. They're currently 10 and 12. They don't earn a lot of money, but they both have a donor-advised fund with Charitable Impact, and my partner and I send them $10 a month for them to give away. It's part of our training to them to try to develop them into donors. But it's not so much to develop them into donors, although that is the result. It's to try to help them understand that there's things that they can do, there's actions that they can take to create change in the world.
So having that account that you helped to create, what special status does that account then provide for them as you work your way through life, and at the end of the year we're calculating up what we spent and what we earned and what can we deduct against taxes, because we've then taken money that might have gone to taxes but directed it in a way that we get to choose. And I think that this is a big thing for people.
Well, that last point is really important. Let's start there. So when you pay your tax, it goes to the government and they spend it, right? And you can vote for who the government is. When you pay philanthropy, let's call it, when you pay charity, you get to choose where it goes, right? You're limited to choosing things that are charitable at law.
Yes.
But it's I mean, just briefly on that, anything that advances education is going to be charitable law. Anything that advances religion, anything that relieves poverty, right? And then the fourth head is all the things that the courts have said, are charitable over time. So that's where things like the environment fits in, art, theater, all of these things. So without going too deep in it, the probability that what you want to do to create change in the world isn't charitable at law is actually quite low. Okay, so that's an important thing for people to understand that lots of people don't. They don't actually know what's charitable, so they don't know how to connect what they care about to charitable giving.
Right.
Now, your actual question, though, if I remember it correctly, was what does that sort of account give them in terms of status?
Yes.
Okay. If people understand what a charity is, and we can clarify that if you want to, it conceptually gives them their own charity status without having official status with with the Canada Revenue Agency, which is how you register a charity in Canada, because the Charitable Impact Foundation does have charitable status, and we allow people to come to us and open their own account in there, just like opening a bank account with RBC. They open their own account with the Charitable Impact Foundation, and that's their donor-advised fund. That's the fund inside Charitable Impact that they are advising as the donor. When they add money, it goes right there. They then get the tax receipt immediately. They can hold money there and think about what they want to do. They can even make investments. And then they can send it out to any qualified donee, any registered charity they want when they're ready to make a decision they're comfortable or confident in.
This is our second break. We'll be back in a moment. The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. So that's a magic element to what you're doing. You help people create that money that can be used in the way that you want. And once you've they start the process with you, then it covers off any of the legal side of their income tax reporting and so on.
Correct. So,
and it's a big relief for many people.
Well, I think so. Yeah. The relief is hopefully is well, great. Relief feels good too, right?
Yeah.
But it's also how about like, great, now I can focus on the stuff that I think I kind of understand, which is what I want to create the change for.
Right.
Right? Like, would you rather kind of, if you're into affordable housing, a big issue in Vancouver, right? Like if you're into that as what you want to create change for, would you rather sort of spend all your time researching that, or would you rather learn about the tax receipt rules, with CRA? I mean, come on, someone's got to know that. Yeah. I know a bit about that, right? Lots of people know something about that, but that's not what we need the average Canadian focused on. We need them focused on their energy on developing the comfort and confidence they need in order to start actually putting time and or their talent and or their money into these causes to help advance them. So what Charitable Impact does is it tries to take all the sort of, boring, administratively cumbersome, intellectually challenging stuff away, number one, and number two, give them the power and agency that they actually have without needing to go through the expense and rigmarole of creating their own entity, so that they can focus themselves on the important stuff, which is what they want to do with their time, talent, and money.
So I can see from the individual why that's great. Let's take a small charity that I mentioned to you off camera beforehand called Helicopters Without Borders. Now, they were fortunate they had somebody who come along and gave them enough money to get that going. But they're going, okay, well, where do we go from here? We can't rely on just one sponsor or supporter. We need to be able to reach out. But they don't have those resources. They're busy doing so many other things. How do you then help small groups like that?
Well, it depends on what the group's trying to achieve, right? So
they're trying to deliver healthcare to remote communities around British Columbia. So they've completely decked out a helicopter that they can fly medical equipment and physicians or dentists and so on into remote communities to deliver healthcare that these people wouldn't otherwise have access to.
So if that's their goal, first of all, as a charity advisor or a philanthropic advisor, I'd say you need to register your own charity, because they're actually carrying out activities of getting
which I believe they have.
Well, it sounds like they have, and it'd be what's called a charitable organization. Those charities can actually carry out the activities they want to do, like getting health and other things to remote communities. So, I mean, there's people listening to this right now who go, that's important to me for some reason. Maybe they grew up in a remote community, and I'd love to help that. So the one problem to solve is help the charity who needs resources to do more of their work find that person. And what's also true is that person wants to find that charity, right? Because there's lots of different things that are charitable. How do you find the thing that meets your personal interests?
Right.
So Charitable Impact seeks to create a marketplace where those two things where the connection happens more cost effectively and in a more in a better user experience type of way. Sorry for the clunky language there, but in a way that like the experience of being a donor actually feels really good. Like back to it's what I want to achieve. It's intrinsic to me to want to help remote communities. Can I go and find, click a few buttons to find charities that are more likely to help in remote communities as opposed to do something completely different, like, I don't know, find a cure to cancer, for example.
Third and final break. We'll be right back. The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. So one other thing that I'm kind of aware of that you do is that you can have an individual who says, I want to give money to that charity or somewhere else, but I want other people that I know to get on board. Is that something that you can help facilitate?
Yes, yes, it is, and we do that because we know that people who create change in the world want to tell other people about it, right? I mean, we didn't invent that concept. We just give people the facility in order to do that. So, for example, if you want to, do your giving privately, you can totally do it and be totally anonymous, in fact, with our platform. Or you can set up a more of like what we call a giving group, but to crowdfund and advocate to all your social contacts that they should add money to this also, and then give money together. We have a brand promise at Charitable Impact, and it's your giving your way, our support. So what the advisory side of our work does, which is just, hey, well, what are you trying to achieve? And let me help you achieve that with my experience having, helped a whole bunch of people with their giving, right? We don't tell you what to give your money towards. That's up to the donor. We tell you how to, get more people involved with it, or how to do it anonymously, or how to post-donation make investments that can then grow the amount of money that you have to give away tomorrow.
So I only got a little bit of time left. Two things. Is this only in Canada, or do you have international reach? Charity
is a tax jurisdiction thing. So the Charitable Impact Foundation, Canada is only Canada. Okay. All registered charities are there. You can give to any registered charities. Those registered charities, which are Canadian registered charities, can do work internationally. Okay? So there's that. Our aspiration as an organization is to take what we're doing and go internationally with it. So that, now you've got, people in the United States who are doing it, or people in India, or people in England. We're not there yet. We have some more things we have to achieve before we get there. But the vision is kind of like if you know what the World Bank is, it's kind of like a World Bank but powered by people and corporations and other grassroots organizations, to give their own money and allocate it themselves, but through a bank-like mechanism. So we do have an ambitious vision, but we're starting with Canada because it's where we live and it's what we love.
So for somebody who's watching right now and they say, okay, where do I go? How do I get started? Where do they go? What's the first thing they need to do?
Well, if they have internet access, go check out Charitable Impact on the web, right? CharitableImpact.com. You can find us in social media. We Are Charitable is our handle across our social medias. And actually you can sign up for an account. It takes 30 seconds. It doesn't cost anything to do it. And broad access to sophisticated charitable tools that are focused on the donor, whether they're an individual or a corporation, is what we specialize in and what we want. And it's about broad access because we want to increase access to and participation in giving.
Just start. That's what you did. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks for having me. This is a conversation that matters to me. I hope it matters to your listeners as well.
Yeah, most certainly. Thanks.